good day. So, today we are going to take up two very important application layer protocols, namely FTP and SMTP. So, first let us look at FTP. FTP, this is the so called file transfer protocol, and it is a very widely used protocol for reliable transfer of files. Okay. And it uses TCP as transport for reliability, it uses out of band control, and this is stateful. So, we will go into these one by one. First thing is that we want this file transfer to be very reliable, in the sense that even missing one bit in between may actually corrupt an entire file. Okay. So, we want a good degree of reliability, and as we have seen in our discussion on TCP, that one way to achieve this reliability is to use TCP. Of course, it may so happen that and now as soon as you start an FTP session for you use FTP for downloading files. Now, as soon as you start an FTP to download a file, it should start sort of immediately. Okay, unlike mail, which may be delivered maybe after some time, 10-15 minutes or something, when it polls. So, that is one requirement of FTP. The other requirement is that the speed is not the constancy of the speed, that means that the speed should remain constant, that is not a crucial requirement for FTP. Okay. A file may be transferred fast in the beginning, then if the network may gets congested, it may slow down, etc. So, but then that is all right. So, in all these respects, TCP is a very ideal transport protocol for running FTP. So, let us just look into the general scheme. First of all, suppose this is an FTP client trying to contact an FTP server. So, there is a TCP control connection at port 21. So, you see above we have mentioned the control connection, and below we have mentioned the data connection. So, these two connections are different. So, that is why it says that its control is out of band. Actually, out of band control means that for whenever two nodes are communicating, this is a general term, that if there is some control information going between the two, for example, in a telephone the connection setup, that is a control information, ringing, etc., that is a control information. So, if when this control information and the actual data, they occupy two distinct channels, then it is called out of band communication, and that means the control is out of band. So, this is what, as you see, that for control connection TCP uses a different port, and for data connection it uses a different port. One is a port number 21, the other is a port number 20, and these are basically well known ports, as you know. So, the request comes from the client through this port number 21. So, the server opens a port number 20 with the client and starts communicating. Now, FTP client contacts FTP server at port 21 specifying TCP as transport protocol. Client obtains authorization over control connection. Now, this is important. When you want to download a file, it is important to check whether whoever is wanting to download, whether he has a proper authorization or not, because not all files and all information should be available to everybody in the world. There are questions of privacy, there is questions of security, etc., etc. So, that is why some authorization is necessary. Of course, in this case what FTP does, the authorization is rather at a rudimentary level, in the sense that it is through users and passwords only, but anyway, that much of authorization is there, and this authorization process goes through the control channel. So, client obtains authorization over control connection, and then client browses remote directory by sending commands over control connection, which means that if the authorization phase is it goes through all right, then the current directory etc., the client can see current directory at the server end, and this can be seen by the client from the other end by giving some commands. Now, of course, in raw FTP the commands are a little bit cryptic, whereas there are FTP clients with a good graphical user interface where you can actually graphically see the directory etc. This is the remote directory we are talking about, so that he can look into the remote directory and select whatever file that he wants to download. When server receives a command for a file transfer, the server opens a TCP data connection to client, and this is again done on a well known port 20 on the client. So, a new data connection is set up. After transferring one file, server closes the connection. Now, what might happen is that a person may want to transfer a number of files from the server. So, again if there is if again there is a request for another connection, the server will open the connection again, open another connection again on the same port, and the second TCP data connection is set up to transfer another file. So, this is how it goes. So, control connection, as we have already discussed, is out of band, and FTP server maintains state. And what is the meaning of state here? The current directory and earlier authentication. That means that once a client connects to a server and gives his authorization, then for that entire session, I mean so long as he does not log out, that authorization is kept valid. That means he can go on accessing whatever is available on the other side. So, that is one thing. So, that is maintained, and then the current directory, that means which is the directory he is browsing at the moment, which is the directory from which he is downloading the present file. The current directory for this particular client, that is also maintained at the FTP server. So, that is why this is called a stateful protocol, in the sense that it maintains the state even if one file transfer is over and it closes, but the authorization and the current directory remains. So, this is a stateful protocol. Now, FTP sample commands, these commands are sent as ASCII text over control channel. So, this is a simple ASCII text going over the control channel. So, user, so you are supposed to expect the user's name and the password. So, the password, and these are commands that you can give, and these commands go to from the client to the server through the control channel. So, you can do list, it return list of file in current directory. As I said, that this is the basic FTP command, and then you may have of course user interface which shows it very nicely in a graphical fashion. RETR is file name, it retrieves or gets a file. So, you can use get also, or retrieve a file name. STO or file name stores or puts file onto the remote host. So, you can both get a file from the remote host as well as you can upload a file on the host. So, for doing that you have to give the particular file name. So, these are some sample commands for FTP which you can use. And then the once again, so we are talking about the control channel only, the FTP sample responses, okay, gives a status code and phrase as in HTTP. These are some basically codes, say 331 username okay, password required. So, you have, when you have just entered the username and if that username is in his list, so he will send an okay for the username. But then you still have to give the password. 125 data connection already open, transfer starting. So, this is sort of in the transfer in the control channel, these are the kind of responses from the server side which may come. 425 can't open data connection. 452 error writing file. So, all these errors etc. are errors and other kinds of responses, they come through the control channel. So, these are some of the FTP sample responses. Actually, so far as FTP is concerned, that is all. It's a very simple protocol, but at the same time, this is an extremely important protocol, as we know that people want to download files almost all the time, and these files of course could be any kind of file. Okay, there is no restriction on the kind of file, whether it's a of course if it's a binary file, you have to set the mode that way. And or if it could be a text file, it could be a binary file, it could be images, multimedia, anything. If it's a binary file, you have to set a mode. So, so that is one very important application. And the next important application that we are going to discuss today is this this SMTP, actually which is at the root of all the emails, so called, or electronic mails. Electronic mail has been a very important application of the network. As a matter of fact, these two things taken together, that one is the web, which is the HTTP protocol, which we are going to discuss in the next lecture. HTTP and email, that web and email, these have been the killer applications, so to say, for computer networks, which made the computer network immensely popular. So, of course, that contributed a lot to the growth of network in general, and as you grow, then you you get all the economies of scale. So naturally money is invested, so there is a lot of money comes into it, which spurs further growth and further innovation, etc. So this HTTP and SMTP have been the so-called killer apps of the computer network. So let us now look at the details of SMTP. SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Okay, it's a simple protocol, as we will see. Once again, like FTP, it's quite simple. But of course, for sending mails, etc., there are some more intricacies which we will see. So this is one of the most popular network services. Email is supported by TCP/IP protocol, SMTP. System for sending message to other computer users, and provides a mail exchange between users. Actually, many of you must have used emails, and you know that you can send a mail to a number of people, and a number of so there can be one to many, etc. And there are lots of advantages of this email. The chief advantages being the speed at which your mail reaches the other end. Actually, once email came into vogue, the classical mail which goes to the post office, etc., they have been renamed as snail mail, that it goes at a snail's pace, whereas email goes extremely fast. Okay, it's not. It may not be instantaneous, depending on how your mail servers, etc., are configured. We will come to that later on, but it goes very fast, and it may be almost instantaneous. So in a few minutes, the mail has reached the other side. And the other thing is that this is so cheap. This is so cheap, you can attach any kind of file to it. So all that makes the email very, very attractive, and the volume of email has grown tremendously, dwarfing the number of ordinary mails that had been going on before that by orders of magnitude. So this that is what SMTP does. So it supports sending a single message to one or more recipients, sending messages that include text, voice, video, or graphics. Actually, as the SMTP was originally envisaged, it can carry only text messages, But then people found a way around for encoding other kinds of data, because very soon, as soon as text messages became passé, people wanted to send pictures, voice, video, and all kinds of things, graphics, etc., all kinds of things through the email. So there was a way of encoding it. We will come to that. So we can send messages to users on networks outside the internet. That is also possible. Actually, this is becoming less important by the day, because what is happening is that internet is sort of swamping all other types of network. But when the time when SMTP came into existence, at that time many of the other types of networks, that means not just TCP/IP networks, but other types of networks were also in vogue. And so there a way had to be found to exchange mails from these from this heterogeneous, I mean to from on to users who are on different networks. So it's in the heterogeneous kind of network, and that has actually introduced a lot of complexity into the SMTP gateways. We will come to that. Anyway, so this is also possible, although it is becoming less important now, because everybody it seems is almost switching over to this internet and TCP/IP protocol. Now, an electronic mail system has three major components. One is the user agents. Okay, I mean, here are some examples of user agents like Eudora, Outlook, Pine, Netscape Messenger. So all kinds of mail user agents are there, which provides the user with a graphical interface, and it makes it sort of simpler for even for lay people to use this mail system. And then there are mail servers, so which handles the incoming and outgoing messages, and they use the simple mail transfer protocol between the mail transfer to reach the mail from one end of the network to other. So this is just a diagram. We have, let us say, these user agents which who are connected to mail servers. The mail server maintains a outgoing message queue. So any of these user agents may keep on sending mail, so they will be there in the outgoing message queue. Similarly, whatever incoming messages are coming, they also come into this mail server, and they go into, by looking at the user's address, they go into individual users' mailboxes. So these yellow boxes, suppose they represent the users' mailboxes, and then the user agent will connect to these mailboxes. Mailboxes are basically directories where all your mails are kept. So and it can access his or her own mail, the mails which are incoming. So they go into these mailboxes, and mails which are outgoing, they go into a queue, and from this the mail server sends it to different other mail servers, and these different mail servers talk to each other via this SMTP protocol. So it may reach another mail server to the mailbox to a particular user agent. So that is how the system works. So one important component of this system is the user agent. It prepares the message, creates an envelope. This envelope is nothing, that means just as, I mean, this is the term obviously has been brought in from classical mail, and just as you write a letter and then put it in an envelope, similarly you put your message into an envelope which has got a certain format. We will come to that format later on. So it is the job of the user agent to create, I mean, the message, of course the user has to type in or maybe upload from somewhere, and then it is put in the envelope in the proper format. That is the job of the user agent, and then it puts the message in the envelope and sends it over to the mail transfer agent. That is one job of user agent. The other job, of course, is that for the incoming mails, it has to show the incoming mails, and then depending on what kind of user agent you have, you may have you may be able to create directories for classifying the mails, maybe mails from friends from in some directory, and mails from for business purpose in other directory, and some user agents also allow you to define rules so that whenever an incoming mail has come to the user agent, it will automatically examine the mail and put it in its proper directory. So all these are done by the user agent, and then there is this mail transfer agent. So from the user agent, the envelope goes to the mail transfer agent, who transfer the mail across the internet. So you have these different machines who uses the user agent to create the envelope, which are then sent to the mail message transfer agent or mail transfer agent. Now it travels through the internet. For the time being, let us consider only internet as a homogeneous kind of networking system, and then the envelope is delivered to the proper user agent, and then the user accesses his mail through the user agent into his own machine or something. So this is the overall email architecture. We will look at another overall architecture little later. There are some relay MTAs. So mail may be relayed through a number of MTAs. Allows systems not using TCP/IP to send email to users on other sites. It's accomplished through a mail gateway. A relay MTA that can receive and send mail prepared by a protocol other than SMTP. So these relay MTAs are very important. First of all, by looking at the address, remotely it may not be possible to disambiguate the address of the final mail server who is going to give it directly to the user agent. It may not be possible to disambiguate it. So maybe there are mail relays before that who would who are bigger entities who are known. So the mail can be sent to him, and he will send it to the proper mail server who will directly give it to the user agent. So that is one job of mail relay. The other job of mail relay is that suppose you have, as I said, that it is possible to give transfer mails between heterogeneous networks. So you have one kind of network here and another kind of network here. So what will happen? So in between there has to be a mail gateway. All right. This mail gateway is also some kind of relay MTA. So the message will first come to this relay MTA, who will then actually store it, and then the format etc. of the envelope and other things that may not be the same in the two networks. All right. So he will make those changes, proper changes, and then send it over to the other second type of network. So that is the job of a mail gateway. So here is an example. Suppose an user agent has sent a mail through its own MTA via the internet to that MTA. Now this MTA is actually working as a mail gateway, and this mail gateway then can push it to another kind of network, which is a private network, to the corresponding mail system. So this way it makes it possible for user A and user B to communicate, that means exchange mails, although they are on different kinds of networks. But as I said, that this is becoming less important by the day, because other kinds of networks is giving way to TCP/IP networks. Now for delivering mails, of course you need the addresses. So there is an unique addressing system. It consists of two parts. One is the local part, followed by @ followed by a domain name. I mean, you must have come across mail addresses, and you see something at something dot something dot something. All right. So this is what it looks like. Now the part before the @ that is a local part. Okay, and this local part is supposed to specify the mailbox within that local network where this mail is finally to be deposited. Suppose that is the address of the address of the person to whom you are sending the mail. So, at the destination, at the where is the mailbox where this particular mail is to be deposited, that is given by the local part. Whereas the domain name, this is what the distant host from where the mail is coming, this is what allows him to send the mail to the proper destination. By looking at the domain name, he knows the destination, so he will send to the corresponding mail server in that domain. Okay. But as I said, sometimes this may not be done in a single hop, so it may go through a few mail relays. So, this is the address part from the domain name reaching the destination, etc., that we have seen earlier, and of course, from the local, and once it reaches its near its destination, by looking at the local part, finding out the address of the mailbox is easy. The local part defines the user mailbox where mail is stored for user, and domain name is the name of the host used as the mail exchanger. Okay. Unlike FTP or HTTP, for mails, of course, messages do not necessarily have to be delivered immediately. Can be delayed at the sender side, receiver side, or intermediate servers. So, what is happening is that during this time, of course, what is happening to the mail, it is waiting in some queue, all right, and the mail servers may be configured to poll the different machines connected to it for outgoing mail from time to time, and that is the time when it delivers the mails also. So, it sends and receives messages during that time. So that that time may be said, that time may be a few minutes, that time may be more than that, and then it goes and waits in the outgoing message queue before it is processed, etc. So, you see that the delivery is not instantaneous. Okay, it may be delayed, but usually nowadays mail is so important, and so people put powerful machines for doing these jobs, and the mail goes really fast compared to snail mail, of course, really fast. But then compared to other protocols like FTTP or HTTP, this SMTP, the messages may have to wait in some queues in some servers, either on the sending side or receiving side or intermediate servers. Aliases, that means different names for the same person. So, SMTP allows one name and alias to represent several different email addresses. This is one-to-many alias expansion. A single user can be defined by several different email addresses. So, this is many-to-one email expansion. So, both are possible. For example, you know that it is possible to send mails to a group of people. Suppose you have you regularly communicate to a group, and when you send a message, you want that message to reach to every member of the group, something like multicasting. So, what you can do is that you can define the group, giving the email addresses of all the members in the group, and then when you actually compose the mail, you can simply send it to the group. So, the machine will automatically send one copy to each member of the group. So, that is one-to-many alias expansion. Similarly, many-to-one is also possible. So, this is a more general sort of picture. So, you have the user who goes to the user interface to the user agent, which puts it in the spool for the outgoing mails, and it collects the mails from the mailboxes from its the corresponding mailbox. User A will have one mailbox here, and then there will be alias expansion, and then it will go through the MTAs, through the internet to other MTAs to reach its destination. Now, looking at the mail message format, so this is the SMTP. It says that because this is the protocol for exchanging email messages, and RFC 822 gives the standard for text message format. The header lines this contains the to, that means to whom is it addressed, from, that for where the mail is coming from, and a subject line. So these are members of the header. And then there is a blank line, one single blank line, and then there is the body, that is the message, and the message, as you note, is ASCII characters only. And of course, between the MTA clients and MTA servers, SMTP uses commands and response to transfer mail between an MTP client and an MTP server. So this is a commands and response mode like other application protocols. So mail transfer has the following phases. The process of transferring a mail message occurs in 3 phases: connection establishment, mail transfer, connection termination. So for connection establishment, client makes a TCP connection to the well-known port 25. So this well-known port 25 is used for SMTP. The SMTP server starts the connection phase. So the server will reply with a 220 service ready. Okay. 220 service ready. So as soon as MTA client sends a request to this port 25, automatically if the server is ready, a 220 service ready will come back. Then there will be a hello message from the client to the server side, and server side will respond with a 250 OK. So these are the commands and response which are going on. We will sort of look a bit more into an actual SMTP session later. So and after this, when if everything is ready, then the connection is ready, a single message between the sender and one or more recipient can be exchanged. So this is the message transfer phase. And finally, there is a connection termination when the client sends a quit and the server responds saying that the 221, the service is closed. Okay. So actually this protocol is so simple, you can just try it out yourself to send mails even without the help of, by directly doing a telnet on a particular port. Suppose you know the server name. So you just telnet the server name 25 and you will get a 220 reply from server. Then you enter your hello mail from receipt to etc. the commands, and then finally you quit. The above lets you send mail without using an email client or a reader. Okay. This is of course also used by people who do not want to be identified that who is sending this mail etc. So all these other misapplications and misuse of these facilities are also there, but let us just learn the use. So that is why let me show you this example. Say one sample SMTP interaction. After you have telnetted it, the server comes with a response that 220 IITKGP ERNet 10. Suppose that is the name of the server. Then the client sends a hello CSE IITKGP ERNet.in hello and from this client. So the server will say hello CSE IITKGP ERNet.in, pleased to meet you. Then you will say mail from, then maybe you will give an address, then 250. So the sender OK. So the so this is the client and server. So client is sending one command, the server is responding, saying that giving the giving the feedback all the time that it is OK. Then maybe you receive 2. So this mail is to be sent to such and such. So he will say that recipient OK. Then he will say that data, meaning that what follows would be the data, that means which is the body of the message that is to be sent. And then as in response to this data command, what the server will say is give you 354, enter mail, end with dot, that is the full stop on a line by itself. Okay. So suppose this is the body of the mail, this is a test mail checking protocol etc. Then you end the mail with a dot by itself. So carriage return 9 feet, so CRLF followed by dot followed by CRLF, that is the SMTP's way of checking that the mail body is ended. So, the message 250 means message accepted for delivery. Now, when the message has been accepted, you can quit and then it quits. And some final words about SMTP. First of all, it uses persistent connections. So, that means that so long as you do not quit, you can go on sending mails one after the other, and actually that is what the machines will do. Of course, I mean the session I showed you is just for just as an example, for an example. Usually you would not send mail by directly using SMTP. Okay, as a matter of fact, there is no point doing that unless you have some other intention. So what you will do is that you will use a standard mail agent for doing that. But so the machine are going to be send the mail. So this is, so when the machine opens an SMTP connection, this is going to be persistent till such time you quit. So a number of messages can be sent in the same session. By the way, I should also mention that apart from these standard mail agents like and using SMTP etc., one service which is becoming quite popular nowadays are the web mail. All right. So the web mail, actually for web mail, of course you connect to the web mail server, whoever gives you that service, to that server through HTTP. Okay. And it works, I mean from that point onwards it works the same way. So SMTP uses persistent connections. SMTP requires message, that is header and body, to be in 7-bit ASCII. Okay. And SMTP server uses CRLF, that means carriage return line feed dot carriage return line feed to determine end of message. Okay. And as you have seen that SMTP is a chatty protocol, in the sense that I mean you say something, immediately it tells you something back. So this back and forth command and response goes on. Okay. By the way, for this CRLF, sometimes some flexibility are also given. So if some part of it is missing. And comparing it with HTTP, this thing is that HTTP is a pull kind of a protocol. That means the client, the user, or rather makes a request and pulls the content, whereas here the content is pushed from the sender to the receiver. Both have ASCII command response interaction and status codes. In HTTP, each object is encapsulated in its own response message. SMTP, multiple objects sent in multi-part message. So actually you can send a multi-part message. So this is where all the sort of attachments etc. to a mail come in. Now of course, as we know that nowadays we can send not just text messages, but other kinds of, that means pictures and other things, graphics etc. we can or in voice recording etc. we can send through the mail, which means that it is possible to send binary files, not just text files, arbitrary binary files through the mail. And the way it is done is by encoding this binary file into a textual form. There are various ways to do this encoding. We will just see one. So SMTP is a simple mail transfer protocol. It can send in NVT 7-bit ASCII format only. It cannot directly send binary files, for example video or audio or images. So MIME, this is the multipurpose internet mail extension. So MIME is an extension to SMTP which allows non-ASCII data to be sent through SMTP. Since this is so important and so useful and so common nowadays, so let us just look a little bit into MIME. It transforms non-ASCII data into NVT ASCII at the sending end, which can be transformed back at the other end. So what it does is that it adds additional lines in message header to declare MIME content type. So this is an example of some message which contains actually a binary file. Well, the initial part of the header from Shuja etc. to etc. subject picture of car, maybe we are sending a picture through the message. So, the from to subject, this part is like a standard message. Then you say MIME, then that since this is using MIME, so it says MIME version 1.0. So, MIME version has to be mentioned. This is important because whatever you are sending, that has to be decoded on the other end. And then content, method used to encode data, content transfer encoding is base 64. So, base 64 is one way of encoding a binary file into a text file. We will see how it is done. So, but you have to mention that, as I mentioned earlier, there are different ways of encoding binary file into text. Base 64 is just one of them. So, the sender has to mention, or sender has to clearly specify that this is the encoding scheme, standard encoding scheme of course, this is the encoding scheme that I have used for encoding the file, so that the receiver on the other end can actually decode it. So, you have to mention the method used to encode data, and then you say the content type is image or JPEG. Then you give the base 64 encoded data. So, base 64 encoding is actually quite simple. You take 6, suppose you have a binary file. So, you take 6 bits from a binary file at a time from groups of 24. So, you take first 3 bytes and make 4 6-bit some 6-bit sequences from this. Okay. So, 3 into 8 is 24, 4 into 6 is 24. So, from 3 bytes you can get 4 groups of 6. So, you interpret these 6-bit binary string as a number, as a binary number, and then depending on that number you encode it into a textual form. So, 6 bit will give you 2 to the power 64. So, 2 to the power 6, which is 64 different numbers, which is 0 to 63, and the encoding is the following. Encoding is A for 0, B for 1, capital A, capital B, etc. for 0 1, followed by 26 lowercase letters. So, that makes 26 uppercase plus 26 lowercase, that is 52 letters, followed by 10 digits 0 through 9. So, that makes it 62, followed by plus and slash for 62 and 63. For numbers 62 and 63. This way you get from 0 to 63, that you get a from A to B uppercase, A to B is lowercase, digits and plus and slash, that gives you an encoding. So, that is a text, you encode it as a text and then send it as a text. Now, we will come to the user end. So, this is POP, we will talk about POP3, the post office protocol POP3. This once again is a very simple protocol for interacting with your mailbox, actually mailbox which is in the server, and this is very widely used. So, what this is used for is that your mail server of course would be having the mails which are incoming for you, they will be deposited in your mailbox. Now, POP3 is a protocol for getting that content of your mailbox, for downloading it onto your desktop machines. Okay. That has advantages. For example, the server gets less loaded, because with people getting so many mails nowadays, that very soon if you have, let us say, a departmental server giving the mail services to all the members of the department, and if all the mails are actually get accumulated there, so the mail server, it will load the mail server very much. So, it is good practice to download it to your machine, and POP3 is a protocol for doing this download. Sorry. So, mail access protocols. Actually, there are other protocols apart from POP3. I will just mention one more, but let us look at POP3, because since this is the simplest. SMTP is a push protocol. Now, so somebody has pushed let us say a message for you. Now, how will you access that email? So, this mail access protocol is retrieval from the server, allows mail stored in mailboxes to be accessed by the recipient. So, POP is a post office protocol, 3 is that version 3 RFC 1939. Users can't create folders on mail servers, okay, usually. That is usually, that means when you are so POP is a protocol for doing this mail access. Another one is IMAP. This is an internet mail access protocol. This has more features and you can manipulate messages on the server. So we will look at this also just a little bit. And as I mentioned that there are web mail services also which uses HTTP. That means it may be say Hotmail, Yahoo Mail, etc. These are web mail services which are accessed through HTTP. So these are say 3 major protocols which people use for accessing mails. So post office protocol version 3 is simple and limited in functionality. It consists of client software and server software. The server performs password authentication. The server software allows the client software to access the recipient's mailbox. Okay. So that is all there is. So what the POP3 client will do is that it will sort of connect to the POP3 server on the main mail server of maybe a work group or department or organization. So the POP3 server would do an user authentication once again through user and password. So this is simply a password check, and when the user is authenticated, he is given access to his particular mailbox. And what POP3 would usually do is would usually download all the mails from the from that mail server to the desktop machine. Okay. Of course, there are all, I mean, you can configure it. For example, it is possible to configure it so that only a copy comes to your desktop and another copy remains in the mail server. But as I said, that such practice leads to overloading of the mail server and very soon its buffer starts getting full, its memory space starts getting used up. So, so that is all there is to POP3. You cannot do much, you are not supposed to do much, and simply get the machine on your desktop. And of course, you can organize your local sort of mail folders in any way you like by creating directories, subdirectories, etc. But this POP3 has a problem for some users, in the sense that if all the mails are actually downloaded onto your desktop machine, then when you are away from your desktop, I mean if it is a desktop, if it is not a laptop, so if it is if all the mail has been downloaded on your desktop, and then when you are away from office, you have no access to the email folders. And actually nowadays the mail has become so common mode of not only exchanging information as well as storing old information, etc. So people need the need access to past mails almost all the time. Okay. Now one way to do it is, of course, instead of putting it I mean downloading it using POP3 onto your desktop, download it onto your onto a laptop and carry that laptop around wherever you go. That is one way. There are other ways. The only other alternative is to keep it in the server. So if you can keep it in the server, what would happen is that naturally you can get access to that server from other places, and you can see your mails. Uh, uh, but the same thing actually goes, same advantage is there for webmail also. So if you are using a webmail service, you are actually your mail is stored in the server, whoever is giving you the service. So, both webmail and IMAP4 has this facility of storing the mail in your server. Mm, so, what facility you require? They were there in the server mailbox anyway. Well, you can have access to it, and if you directly access the mailbox, sometime I mean the interface is not so good. So, these access protocols gives you somewhat better interface. Specifically, IMAP4 is more complicated than POP3 and has got more features. IMAP4 means Internet Mail Access Protocol version 4. It stores users' mail in the server so that it can be accessed from multiple locations. It is able to address mails not just by arrival numbers but by attributes. So, you can define attributes on mails and you can say something like give me the last mail from Steve. Okay, you can say things like that. So, it is going to do a search on your directory and access that particular mail. As I said that if you have got it on your desktop, you can organize it any way you like. Here of course, you are not taking it to your desktop, it is in the server. So, this protocol has got more features so that you can access your mails in a more flexible manner. Okay, and that is important because nowadays it is all the old mails you have. I mean, there are many people who have thousands of mails and many of them are useful. Of course, it keeps accumulating junk also, which you somehow fail to delete. So, anyway, so there is some kind of organization and some kind of searching of this is necessary in order to operate with mails in an easy manner. So, it is able to address mails not just by arrival numbers, but by attributes also. It has more features than POP3 as I mentioned. Can check email header prior to downloading. So, that is another. For example, what POP3 would do is POP3 would download all mails that are there in your mailbox in a blind fashion. All right. For accessing through IMAP4, before accessing you can do some kind of filtering so by checking the email header. Can search contents of email prior to download. So, contents can also be searched before you download. And then it can partially download email. It can create, delete or rename mailboxes on the mail server and can create a hierarchy of mailboxes in a folder for email storage. All right. So, this is like creating a hierarchy of directories for sorting the mail into its proper category. So, with there are these are the references. For example, RFC 821 for simple mail transfer protocol, RFC 2821 once again for SMTP, RFC 2045 for MIME, and there are other RFCs associated with mail, but if you want, you can really search in the internet and find out. RFCs of course contain all the information that are necessary for these protocols. So, with this we come to the end of our discussion about these two important protocols, namely FTP and mails, that means file download upload and mail exchange. Another protocol that we have to talk about is naturally the HTTP or the web, which we will take up in the next class. Thank you.